Hello friends, today we are discussing matter in surroundings lesson. Everything in the universe is made up of particles. Scientists have named as matter. Matter is anything which occupies space and has mass is called matter. Early Indian philosophers classified matter in the form of 5 basic elements. The Pancha Tattva. They are air, earth, fire, sky, and water. Matter was divided into 5 types. First one. Physical nature of matter. It was again divided into 2 types. They are matter is made of particles. And how small are these particles of matter? Let us discuss about matter is made of particles. For a long time 2 schools are fighting about matter is made up of small particles, or matter is continuous. Let you do an activity about matter is made up of small particles or countenance. Take a 100 milliliter beaker, full half of the beaker with water. Add sugar or salt and stir with a glass rod. Observe any change in water level. We observed that there is no change in particles of matter, because that the matter is made up of particles. And between the spaces of particles the sugar particles settled down. So we conclude that matter is made up small particles. Let us discuss about how small are these particles of matter. Let's do an activity. Take a beaker, add 100 milliliter of water in it, and add 2 or 3 crystals of potassium permanentum. Dissolve it. Take 10 milliliter of solution in the previous beaker, and add this 10 milliliter of solution in new 90 milliliter of clear water beaker. Repeat this for 5 times. We observed that for every time diluting, we see that the density was changing, but the color was visible. In this experiment we conclude that there must be millions of tiny particles are there in just one crystal of potassium permanente. Let's see the summary of this view too. Matter is made up of small particles. Millions of tiny particles are there in just one crystal of potassium permanentum. Characteristics of particles of matter. Which was second type of matter? Characteristics of particles of matter was divided into 3 types. They are: particles of matter have spaces between them. Particles of matter continuously moving. Particles of matter attract each other. Let us learn about particles of matter have space between them. Let us we take an 100 milliliter of beaker, and add some sugar, stir it with an glass rod. We see that there no change in the level of water, because the particles of one type of matter settled in between the spaces of another type of particles of matter. So this shows particles of matter have spaces between them. Now let us learn about particles of matter are continuously moving. When we take an incense stick and light to the incense stick, we observed that the particles of incense stick was moving continuously. So we conclude that particles of matter are continuously moving. That we call it as kinetic energy. If the temperature rises, the kinetic energy of particles will rise. So we conclude that The particles' speed is based on their kinetic energy. Now let us learn about particles of matter attract each other. Let's take a spoon. Try to break it. We could not able to break it, because the attractional force of the spoon was very high. Let us now try to break the chalk. We are able to break it, because the attractional force of chalk is very low. Let's see the summary of this view. The particles of matter have spaces or enough spaces between them. The particles' moving speed is based on their kinetic energy. Particles of matter have different attractional force. In the next video we learn about states of matter. We see that matter around us exists in 3 different states. They are solids, liquids, and gaseous. The states of matter arises due to the variation in the characteristics of particles of matter. Let us learn in detail about solids, liquids, and gaseous states. Now let us learn about the solid state. Solids have fixed shape. As you can see that this is a cube and this is a cuboid. Solids have fixed volume, because the space that the solids occupy does not change. Solids are difficult to compress. When I try to press the cube, I can't able to press it because solids are difficult to compress. Except sponge and rubber band. Solids are rigid, because solids have fixed shape. Solids could not fill their container completely. Let us see the summary of the solids. Solids have fixed shape expansions like sponge and rubber. Solids have fixed volume. Solids are difficult to compress because the particles of solids have very less spaces between them. Solids are rigid, because solids have fixed shape. Solids do not fill the container completely. Solids have tendency to maintain their shape. Now let us learn about liquid state. Let us take 100 milliliter of water in a beaker and transfer it to the another shape of beaker. We observed that the space of the liquid is changed, but the volume remains same. So we conclude that liquids have no fixed shape, but have fixed volume. Let us take a bottle and fill the bottle with water and try to compress. We observed that we could not able to compress the bottle. So we conclude that liquids are incompressible, just like solids. Let us take water bottle and transfer it to a beaker. We observed that when we are transferring the water to the beaker, as you can see that the water was flowing. So we conclude that liquids are fluids. Let us see the summary of the liquids. Liquids have no fixed shape, but have fixed volume. Liquids are almost incompressible just like solids. Liquids could not fill the container completely. Liquids are fluids because liquids can flow easily. Let us learn about gaseous state. Let us take a container and fill container with oxygen, as shown in the figure. Then transfer it to the big container. When we are filling the oxygen, The oxygen taking the shape and volume of the small container. After we transferring to the big container, it was taking the shape and volume of big container. So we conclude gaseous have no fixed shape and no fixed volume. Let us take a bottle without water. Try to compress it. It was easily compressing. So we conclude that gaseous are highly compressible. Let us see the summary of the gaseous. Gaseous have no fixed shape. Gaseous have no fixed volume. The volume of the gas is volume of the container. Gaseous are highly compressible. Gaseous are fluids. Gaseous fill their container completely. Can matter change its state? Which is fourth type of matter? Can matter change its state? Was divided into two types. They are effect of change of temperature, effects of change of pressure. Let us learn about effect of change of temperature. Let's do an activity. First, collect these things. A beaker, 150 grams of ice, laboratory thermometer, glass stirrer, burner, and iron stand. Set up all the things as shown in this figure, and start heating on low flame. Note the temperature when ice melting. Note the temperature when total ice melted into water. Record your observations in the conservation of solid into liquid. Now put glass stirrer in the beaker and start stirring till the water starts boiling. Look carefully on the thermometer till all the water has vaporization. Record your observations in the conservation of liquid into gas. Let us see the conclusion of this activity. On increasing the temperature of matter, the kinetic energy of particles increase. This kinetic energy breaks the attractional force between the particles of matter. In this way, solid melts into liquids. When solid melts into liquid state, it is known as fusion. The minimum temperature at which a solid melts into liquid state at atmospheric pressure is called its melting point. The melting point of ice is 273.15 Kelvin, or 0 degrees Celsius. When liquid melts into gaseous state, is known as variation. The minimum temperature at which a liquid melts into gaseous state is known as boiling point. The boiling point of liquid is 373.15 Kelvin, or 100 degrees Celsius. We referred that the state of matter can be changed into another state by changing the temperature. Let us learn about a state change directly from solid state to gaseous state without changing into the liquid state. Let's do an activity. Take some camphor. Crush it and put it in a china dish, as shown in the figure. Put an inverted funnel over china dish. Put the cotton plug on the top of the funnel. Now heat slowly and observe. We observed that the solid state camphor changes into gaseous state, which is called as ammonium chloride vapors. A change of state from solid to gas without changing into liquid state is called sublimation. A change of state from gas to solid without changing into liquid state is called deposition. Let us learn about effect of change of pressure. In this figure, in the first cylinder the state of matter was in gaseous state because the piston pressure was low. In the second cylinder, the state of matter was in liquid state because the piston pressure was high. In the third cylinder the state of matter was in solid state because the piston pressure was very high. Let's learn about interconversion of the three states of matter. The change of solid state into liquid state is known as fusion. The change of liquid state into gaseous state is known as vaporization. The change of gaseous state into solid state is known as deposition. The change of solid state into gaseous state is known as sublimation. The change of gaseous state into liquid state is known as condensation. The change of liquid state into solid state is known as solidification. Let's see the summary of this view. The minimum temperature at which a solid state changes into liquid state is known as melting point. The change of state from solid to liquid is known as fusion. The melting point of ice is 273.15 Kelvin. The minimum temperature at which a liquid state changes into gaseous state is known as boiling point. The change of state from liquid to gaseous state is known as vaporization. The boiling point of liquid is 373.15 Kelvin. The change of state from gaseous state to solid state is known as deposition. Hello friends, today we are going to learn about evaporation, which is fifth type of matter. The change of liquid into vapor at any temperature below its boiling point is called evaporation. Evaporation was divided into two types. They are factors of affecting evaporation. How does evaporation case calling? Let's learn about factors of affecting evaporation. There are four types of factors affecting evaporation. They are increasing the surface area, increasing of temperature, decrease in humidity, increase in wind speed. Let us learn about increase in surface area. When we pour huge water in less area, it will take so much time to evaporate. When we pour less water in huge area, it will take very less time to evaporate. We observed that in the increasing of surface area the rate of evaporation also will increasing. So we conclude that the rate of evaporation is based on their surface area. Let's learn about increasing of temperature. As you can see in the first figure, the temperature is low, that's why the evaporation also low. As usually in the second figure the temperature is very high, that's why the evaporation is very high. We observed that in the increasing of temperature the evaporation also increasing. So we conclude the rate of evaporation also is based on their temperature. Let's learn about decrease in humidity. We observed that in the winter season the clothes could not dry fast, because in the winter the humidity was very high. As usually in the summery season the clothes dry fast, because in the summer season the humidity was very high. We observed that in the decreasing of the humidity, the rate of evaporation is high. So we conclude that the rate of evaporation also is based on their humidity. Let's learn about increase in wind speed. When the wind speed is very high the clothes dry fast. I think so many were observed. The reason behind this was, in the wind speed the particles of liquid go along with wind. That's why in windy day clothes dry faster. So we conclude that the rate of evaporation also based on the wind speed. Let's learn about how does evaporation case calling. When we pour some nail polish on our palm, after some time we feel cool, because the liquid particles in the nail polish will evaporate. This case the surroundings cool. That's why we feel cool. We get more sweat in the summer season, because the heat energy came from the sun is more. It will took the sweat from our body and case evaporation. That's why we get more sweat in summer season. We see the water droplets around the cool water, because in air, water vapor is there. The cool water case the surroundings cool, so the water vapor changes into water. That water we see around the glass. The change of liquid into vapor at any temperature below its boiling point is called evaporation. Evaporation is based on their surface area, temperature, humidity, and wind speed. The evaporation case the surroundings cool. In the next video we will discuss about is matter in around us pure, which is second lesson.